Welcome to the Egg Whisperer Show, a program exclusively designed to promote reproductive health awareness and discuss fertility preservation options. Here is your host, the Harvard-educated fertility specialist, Dr. Amy.
She's known as the Egg Whisperer. Fertility expert Dr. Amy Abazadeh.
And you have yet another success story
Just launched by an East Bay fertility doctor.
Hi, everyone. I'm super excited for this Egg Whisperer show. I have two amazing women on. They're infertility warriors, they're disruptors, and they're making a difference in all of my patients' lives because they are breaking down the stigma of infertility. And I want to welcome Blair Nelson and Ali Prato. Hi, you guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank for having us.
Thank you guys. Thank you. So Blair, I want to start with you. You and Ali co-founded something called Fertility Rally. Can you tell us all about that?
Oh my gosh, yes. So it has been a whirlwind and it's been really exciting. So Ali and I met in the infertility space on Instagram, like a lot of us do meet these days. And we were, I think how I found Ali was she had just started a podcast called Infertile AF. And I found her Instagram handle. I reached out to her. At that point, I had been sharing about my journey for a few months, and I was really finding some healing in talking it out, sharing, and then I was getting some great feedback from people that me sharing my experiences was helping them. So I wanted to go on her podcast. I loved that AF was in the name because I am a self-proclaimed potty mouth, and I was like, I love it. And so we connected that way. And then I was on her podcast, and I shared with her that I was wanting to start my own podcast. And so when I started the Fab Fertility podcast, I had her on, and then we just really jived and clicked and remained friends, and both really had this desire to support the community in a bigger way beyond our podcast. And we wanted to do we are people, and we wanted to socialize with all these amazing people that we've met and like create a space for all of us to come together, not just through Instagram, but in person. So we had an idea to throw an annual event. We were like, let's do it. We came up with a fun name, Fertility Rally, because we love that the word rally is exciting. It's, has a double meaning. You can come together to, rally together to support one another. And that's kind of the main meaning behind it. And then also a rally just has like a super fun connotation. Right. So we landed on that, went with it, never looked back, started planning our IRL event that we had scheduled for October of this year in Brooklyn. And we are working through all of the COVID stuff and some more to come on that. But when COVID did hit, we thought, oh my gosh, like, why are we just trying to do this once a year? Let's do this 24/7. And so we launched a membership site June 1st. So we're still in our second month of being up and running. Mm-hmm. We are 100 plus members at this point. It's been super fun. And I'll let Ali share more about what the rally is, but that's how it came to be.
That's awesome. And tell us about your other, well, actually, Ali, tell us about the membership services.
Okay, so it's fertilityrally.com, and we have a free site where anybody can go, and we have lots of content. We say it's a community and also a content hub because basically what Blair and I are setting out to create is I'm on the other side of my infertility journey. We can get into that a little bit, and she's in the midst of it. So together we're coming from two different perspectives. Like, what do you need, after you've kind of gone through it? What do you wish you had had? And then while you're going through it, what do you want? So we've tried to get all of that under one roof. I remember being so clueless about so many things, like from giving myself an injection, and I would get into this Google rabbit hole. So for example, we have videos on the site where, Blair shows herself giving herself the injections. We've got this amazing community piece of it where everybody can put a profile on. They can be anonymous if they'd like to, or they can be searchable so that people can connect to each other and find, you can find people who are going through the same thing that you're going through. We've got tons of groups that people can join, or they can start their own. So that's a cool way for people to connect. And then we also have blogs, we have bonus podcasts, we have a bunch of different lists notes and like things that you can print out and take to your doctor, like questions you can ask your doctor. We have a whole thing of all the acronyms because, as you know, there's so many in this community. We've got a really fun video franchise that we started called 10 Minutes With, where we just interview somebody in the community. They're really fun. And like our hope is that someone's like sitting in their doctor's waiting room, you know, watching these videos, trying to, you know, we try to bring levity wherever we can because we know that this is such an arduous process and it can be so sad and so traumatic. And we recognize that, of course, but we also want to try to bring some fun and some community to it so that it doesn't have to be so, can we swear?
You can totally swear.
It doesn't have to be so shitty.
So shitty, exactly.
It's so shitty so much of the time. So we're just trying to, you know, like Blair said, rally together and band together and just really create a safe space for people to be educated and also to be entertained to a certain degree.
Absolutely. I mean, I try to make the experience as less shitty as I can.
Yeah.
And not everyone has the social support and network as I wish they could have. You know, they may not have a friend or family member that's been through it. So it's amazing and awesome that you guys have created this platform so people can connect and not feel alone. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And you kind of brought up your own fertility journey and now you're on the other side. Can you tell us a little bit about what you went through so that people can hear and learn from it?
Yeah. So I had a secondary infertility journey. So I had my daughter in 2009. I was 35 when I had her. I was 34 when I got pregnant, but 35 when I gave birth. And I didn't know anything about infertility. I didn't have any issues getting pregnant with her. I did have placenta previa, but that's really doesn't have anything to do. So it wasn't like a super awesome pregnancy, but everything, you know, she was born and was healthy. And then we didn't start to try for a couple years after she was born because, again, I didn't know what is so common now, I feel like, and people are learning, but like at 35 that, you know, your egg quality really does kind of plummet. So I waited and was just like, oh, and we want to have a second kid, it's going to be fine. But lo and behold, that wasn't the case at all. I ended up, I wasn't having problems getting pregnant, but I was having problems staying pregnant. So I ended up having 4 miscarriages after my daughter was born. And we ended up finally seeing an RE who told me that, you know, it was an age-related thing. That was my diagnosis, was just an egg quality issue. So he said I was a perfect candidate for IVF. So we did end up doing IVF in 2015. And I got very, very lucky. And I, even talking to people now, I realize how lucky I was because we just did 1 round. I had 1 healthy embryo. It was transferred in April 2015, and then I did have my son in December. So he's 4.5 now. And yeah, I basically, you know, the way that I got involved in the community though is that as I was going through it, I felt so alone. I mean, I had tons of friends and family members that I could talk to, but nobody that was in it. So I was seeking and so hungry for other people. So that's the reason, you know, that Blair and I connected, and I went on Instagram and started my podcast and all that.
And I imagine throughout this journey, you learned so much along the way that you want to share with other people, and they can get that from Fertility Rally. But for our listeners right now, what are some, you know, tips that you have for people that are just starting out right now that you want them to know?
It's such a good question. I would say the number one thing is find your people. You can't go through this alone. You're not alone. There's millions of people going through this. Thankfully, the community is just growing in terms of people being open about their stories and sharing their stories. So I feel like even since Blair and I started the rally, you know, at the beginning of last year, it's grown exponentially, which I think is great. I mean, it's sad that there's so many people that are going through it, but it's great that so many people are out and sharing and all that. So that would be my number one piece of advice is find your people, find your community.
Awesome. And then you have a podcast as well. Can you share a little bit about that too for people who want to tune in?
So yes, my podcast is called Infertile AF. I started it in March 2019, and it's all about building your modern families in a non-traditional way. So it's not always like infertility. Basically, sometimes it's people like single mothers by choice who do have to do IVF, but they're not technically infertile. So I kind of cover all the bases in terms of same-sex couples, single parents by choice, as I said, surrogacy, adoption, basically anybody who has a story to share about how they built their family. And it's a one-on-one interview, and they're always just really, there's always twists and turns in every story, and they're all so different, but there's a lot of commonalities as well. So it's just been a really great process. I'm a journalist, and I come from a journalism background, so it's just, I'm always like asking a million questions, and I love interviewing people. So that's where that stemmed from.
Well, thank you for everything that you're doing.
Yeah,
Thank you, Ali. I
course.
appreciate it. And then Blair, you have a podcast as well.
I do. My podcast is called Fab Fertility. So it's the same as my Instagram handle and my blog. And it's been so fun. I can't believe it's been over a year. My 100th episode is coming out soon, which is just so crazy. Mine is a mix of me doing solo episodes. I also on Fridays do a co-hosted series that I'm doing called Fertility Fuck It Friday.
I love it.
It's actually the co-host started this hashtag within our community, and it's all about just like, you can't forget who you were before all of this. And it's just like a little funny reminder for people in the community to just go do something that they would have done before all of this. And, you know, and it's just a fun thing. But then my interviews that I do are a mix of interviews with professionals in the field. So I've had several REs on. I've had acupuncturists, Ayurvedic doctors, infertility warriors. So I do just a huge mix and try to cover as many facets as I can. But yeah, it's been super fun. And it's been really healing for me, and I'm very educational because I'm in the middle of my infertility journey, whatever you want to call it. And my husband, so we found out in 2018 that my husband has a balanced translocation. So IVF was pretty much, our path to parenthood. So we went from, I went from peeing on OPKs to IVF in like a day. So I skipped all the medicated cycles, the IUIs, all of that. And I've done 5 rounds of IVF. We've had 2 rounds where we were able to make embryos with his balanced translocation or just euploid. They can't tell the difference at the time or at the moment. Soon, I'm sure. So we went through all of our embryos from our first round. We had 3 failed transfers. I had a miscarriage. The miscarriage is what prompted me to start Fab Fertility, to share my story and find support. And then, we've just been on this crazy IVF roller coaster and finally made some normal embryos. So we're going to have a transfer here in about a month. So gearing up for that.
And so I imagine it takes quite a bit of stamina, courage to go through the number of cycles that you've gone through.
It's been a lot.
It has been a lot. I can
He's
only
like the
imagine.
Strongest person I know.
Oh gosh. I don't know about that. I don't do it. It's messy sometimes, but I get through it.
That's okay.
But what gets you to keep going, to like crush it, like wake up in that morning and make the decision that you're going to keep going? So
I think a lot of it is that we lean on the science of it all. And for our diagnosis, we have been with 2 doctors. We have consulted with several more. We have talked to the amazing embryologists at Cooper Genomics. And all of them are just like, you have to keep going. Like, this will happen. You have to keep going. This is a sucky diagnosis, and it's a numbers game. And you've unfortunately had 3 rounds where you had no normal embryos, and that's like rare. It's bad luck. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen. So anyway, we just keep leaning on the experts telling us, it would be one thing if they were like, I don't think this is going to happen. We probably would have shifted gears, but yeah, it stinks. I mean, I talk about body image all the time, like what all these drugs have done to me after 5 rounds of IVF, and what a struggle it is to keep the weight off and feel like myself. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, you're working towards the thing you want more than anything in the world. So I try to view it as temporary. And try to suck it up most of the time, but I have really bad days too. So
I imagine. And I imagine you also have very good coping skills, because the negative thoughts that come in one ear, you have to somehow push them out. What are the things that you do on a daily basis to bring joy into your life, decrease anxiety and depression, that everyone else who's listening to this can learn from?
oh gosh, I've gotten a lot better about it. It's taken time, but I go to therapy with my husband. We see an infertility therapist. We do that twice a month, not a ton, but enough to like have those hard conversations. I exercise almost every day, even if it's like a low impact walk or whatever, just get outside and clear my head. I do yoga. I meditate every night before I go to sleep. And those are my main, and just staying healthy.
Right. Acupuncture too, right?
Oh, I go to acupuncture. Yep. Do all the things. But, and also just staying, like Ali said, finding your people.
Right.
There's been so many days where I have just felt crappy about, recently my ERA failed, or they didn't get results for my ERA. So I have to redo that. And I was so excited because my transfer was supposed to be in 2 weeks, and I'd finally, like after 2 years, gotten there. And I know it's just another 3 weeks, but it just sucks.
Yeah.
And I was just having a really bad day. And I cannot even tell you like how many people reached out because I was vulnerable and shared it. And I would say that would be my number one piece of advice is find a way to share your journey, whether it's an anonymous account or with a therapist or whatever, because when you share, you get so much love and support in return, especially from this community. Everyone watching, I'm sure, or listening, I'm sure knows that, but yeah.
Right. I mean, I think some patients, they tell me years later, the one thing that they regret is not sharing as they were going through it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they share years later and they realize how much healing it brought them. So I strongly advocate sharing with my patients as well. And definitely joining your community and your membership through Fertility Rally.
Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to mention that Ali, that Ali didn't touch on, speaking of like finding community, is something in sharing your story kind of go, they go hand in hand, but we have our weekly support groups at the rally. So every single week, Wednesday nights at 8 Eastern, our group of girls gets on and we talk about something to do. We always have a little theme. So we'll have, last week was intimacy and infertility. 1 week was test results and anxiety, talking to your friends and family and coworkers about your infertility. So every single week we have support groups for our members, which has been like our favorite thing. And really getting to know people and like seeing people connect and have side conversations, meet in person. It's just like, it makes it all worth it to me and Ali to see that. And then also above and beyond those support groups, we also have other virtual events that bring people together. Like we had all things IVF. We've done, building modern families when you're LGBTQ. Like, so we try to hit all of these super niche topics to create this community and also to help people feel not alone. So.
Right.
And this week we have one about funding your fertility without going broke. So we have a fertility finance expert on. And we've done one with women of color and infertility. So again, we try to cover everything so that everybody can find a place there.
Outstanding. And have you guys found that COVID has increased your membership and drawn people more to Fertility Rally?
It's a good question. I think people are definitely comfortable with the Zoom settings now, which is what all of our support groups are. So that has probably helped. It's hard to say though, because a lot of cycles were on pause and canceled, and money is a little tight for a lot of people right now. So I'm not sure, but hopefully they'll come and find that, we did have one member who, after our very first support group, emailed us and she was like, that was worth like my annual membership alone. And we were like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Because that's what we want. We authentically want people to have a space and feel comfortable and help get healed.
Thank you. Well, thanks to both of you for coming on and just sharing so much of yourselves and giving so much to this community so that people can experience less pain as they're going through this process, because it is painful as fuck.
It is. And we always say,
I'm telling you, as a doctor, I talked with my fertility doctor friends. I'm like, I don't think people realize how hard of a job this is. because you have to lift people up at a time where they're the saddest in their entire lives. You have to make them believe that the impossible can potentially be possible at a time they're looking at you like, that's impossible.
Yeah.
And so just thank you. That's all.
Yeah. Well, we always say our tagline is the worst club with the best members, because nobody wants to be in this club, but everybody who is wonderful, including you. So
thank you.
Thank you so
and
much
it's
for having
amazing. It's amazing having, seeing doctors have this much of a face and interaction with our community. You're one of such a small handful that's like out in front of patients all the time and using social media for good. And so thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope to see you guys, and hopefully in person now too.
Yes.
At some big fertility rally that will potentially be in person, convention, travel around the country.
That will definitely happen.
It will.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks again for coming on. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to the Egg Whisperer Show, a program exclusively designed to promote reproductive health awareness and discuss fertility preservation options. Here is your host, the Harvard-educated fertility specialist, Dr. Amy.
She's known as the Egg Whisperer. Fertility expert Dr. Amy Abazadeh.
And you have yet another success story just launched by an East Bay fertility doctor.